Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's non-governmental organization webinar. It is indeed a pleasure to host all of you for this very important event. Non-governmental organizations are increasingly being recognized as important players in the formulation, design, and application of development strategies. NGOs have become essential partners for governments, the private sector, and development organizations in meeting the needs of people and promoting citizen participation. We are here this morning to engage as partners and stakeholders to create a capacity building platform for national level NGOs and civil society organizations, and to also provide insight into Ecobank's financial solutions to support and empower NGOs and civil society organizations. Due to COVID-19, we are unable to meet in person, but thanks to technology, we can organize a virtual event like this, and it is our hope that we will have a great and pleasant experience and achieve the intended purpose of this event. My name is Rita Nanabachega, the Regional Head, Corporate Communications and Marketing for Ghana and Anglophone West Africa, and I will be your moderator for today's engagement. Please, a few housekeeping rules. This webinar will take approximately an hour and 30 minutes, and we will do our very best to work with time as indicated. This is an engagement, and so we want to hear from you. Kindly leave a comment or question in the Q&A section on the top right corner of your screen, and we will attend to them during the Q&A sessions. Thank you very much. Once again, good morning. Before we proceed, let me introduce to you our next speaker. This lady is the Regional Head for Ecobank Commercial Banking, and both in Ghana and Anglophone West Africa, Mrs. Charlotte Amankwa. Thank you very much for joining us. Charlotte will be giving the welcome address. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. The Special Advisor to the President of Ghana on Sustainable Development Goals, Dr. Eugene Owusu. Country Director of Send Ghana, George Osei Akotobimpe. The CEO of the Ecobank Foundation, Carl Malan. Valued customers, invited guests, fellow Ecobankers, media men and women, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome you all virtually to Ecobank this morning, and I use this opportunity to say thank you for making time to join us for this special NGO forum. Ecobank's relationship with non-governmental organizations in Ghana has been a long-standing one, beginning right from the inception of the bank in the early 1990s. This relationship has grown stronger over the years, and we continuously explore further opportunities for improvement in meaningful ways that inure to our mutual benefit. Today's forum, therefore, is one of the many initiatives by Ecobank to bring together relevant stakeholders on a common platform to provide capacity building support for national level civil society organizations, or CSOs, and non-governmental organizations, NGOs. The forum also provides the opportunity for us to discuss Ecobank's digital banking solutions and the benefits thereof, and how these solutions help to promote financial inclusion as part of Ghana's agenda towards building a cash-light economy. All these are in line with the theme for today's forum, that is, leveraging technology to enhance efficiency of NGO business. The theme is deemed appropriate as Ecobank is a leading financial services provider that needs to position itself rightly as a partner providing support for the growth and developmental needs of institutions such as CSOs and NGOs. It is for this reason that Ecobank has created this platform for reaching out, particularly to local NGOs, and providing world-class banking services to them. Increasingly, NGOs are recognized as important players in the formulation, design, and application of development strategies. International development organizations are placing greater emphasis on working with national or local NGOs to improve local knowledge and participatory development. NGOs are also essential partners for governments, the private sector, and development organizations in meeting people's needs. NGOs largely remain an expression of people's belief that through their own initiative, they can better fulfill their potential by working together to reduce the opportunity gap that exists between the advantaged and the disadvantaged in society. In the light of the above, it is our delight to partner with national level CSOs and NGOs to work and live up to the mandate to serve efficiently and fruitfully. I wish you all very fruitful deliberations during this forum. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, for that very great welcome address. We were all feeling very welcome at this stage, and thank you so much for being able to join us this morning. With us today is a very important personality, Dr. Eugene Owusu, whom I'm sure some of you know, has joined us this morning. And it's a known fact that NGOs play a critical role in the implementation of sustainable development goals. Those are the SDG goals. And it is important that as partners and stakeholders, we understand how impactful playing our respective parts will help us in achieving these SDGs. And so we are very honored this morning to have in our midst the advisor to the President of Ghana on SDGs to give us the keynote address on the relevance of SDGs and how we can be impactful as NGOs. Dr. Eugene Owusu was appointed as the Special Advisor to the President of the Republic of Ghana on SDGs in August 2017. Previously, he served as the UN Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General in South Sudan. Please join me to warmly welcome Dr. Eugene Owusu. Doctor, you are specially welcome to this workshop. And before we hear from Doctor, we will have a very short interlude. Thank you. Thank you. Doctor, your audience.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, for the very warm welcome and the very kind introduction. I thank Ecobank and its senior leadership for the opportunity to speak at this exciting webinar on leveraging technology to enhance efficiency of NGOs' business. I wish to particularly commend Ecobank for its interest in and this focus on the Sustainable Development Goals at these extraordinary times when the world is seized with and our world is grappling with the consequential effects of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. It is over 5 years since the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by the community of nations as a blueprint for a better future for mankind. And our world presently has entered a 10-year countdown to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030. The goals, which represent a universal call to action to end poverty, to protect our planet, and to bring prosperity and enduring peace to our world and its peoples, are no doubt ambitious, but they are indeed much needed. The goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, have indeed become a powerful inspiration for our world, and they hold the key to global prosperity and indeed global stability. Friends, in September 2020, the UN Secretary General launched a decade of action towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. We must, all of us, must see this call to action as sacrosanct and continue to mobilize the world's capacities, the world's knowledge, the world's innovation and resources to ensure that we achieve the goals and leave no one behind. It has been said, and it bears emphasis, that the Sustainable Development Goals are everybody's business. They are the business of governments, the business of the private sector, business of civil society, of traditional leaders, business of religious leaders, and indeed business of communities. NGOs, through the fantastic work they do, play a pivotal role in the realization of the 3 pillars of sustainable development, which is economic, social, and environmental. And as such, there is a clear intersection between the SDGs and the fundamental objectives of NGOs, which is to improve the lives and livelihoods of communities and help transform our world for a better world. In recognition of this, the NGOs had an important voice in the framing of the Sustainable Development Goals, including in defining the means of implementation. But the fundamental question that must be asked is, why should the NGOs be interested in the SDGs and their implementation? Why are the goals relevant for NGOs? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the subject that I've been asked to share some perspectives. There are 7 key reasons, in my view, as to why NGOs must be super interested in the Sustainable Development Goals. First, by being an important voice in the negotiations that led to the crafting of the SDGs, the NGO community is a co-owner of the goals. And the NGO community therefore becomes a duty bearer and also co-responsible for the implementation, successful implementation of the goals. Second point is that the Sustainable Development Goals provide a solid overarching framework for development programming at the country level. The goals help prioritize countries' basic and development needs, and they do so with a clear set of indicators for measuring success. As a framework, the SDGs become an important hook for NGOs to align their work to national priorities. Third, to maximize the human development impact of their work, it is important that NGOs don't just focus on short-term impacts. NGOs become more successful and the impact of their work becomes more sustainable when they connect to longer-term frameworks. And this is what the SDGs provide. Fourth, The Sustainable Development Goals have become a global social compact. They drive the development dialogue, the goals drive development cooperation, and the goals do drive allocation of resources. By connecting NGO projects to the Sustainable Development Goals, NGO projects garner more support and they have greater prospects for mobilizing resources to support their implementation. Fifth, since their inception, the SDGs have generated substantial wealth of knowledge, generated lots of data, generated indicators, and also importantly, metrics for measuring success. The SDGs knowledge base and the data generated are crucial for supporting the work of NGOs. Sixth, the SDGs framework makes it clear that the approach to implementation must involve strategic partnerships amongst all stakeholders. This is eloquently emphasized in SDGs Goal 17, which is partnerships for the goals. The emphasis on partnerships provides significant opportunities for NGOs to leverage resources and knowledge of partners to support their work. Seventh, partnering and investing in the SDGs is good economics. Investing in the SDGs is good politics, and it is indeed good development. And all of these are good for the ecosystem in which NGOs do operate and the results which they seek to achieve. Friends, the ongoing deadly global pandemic has become a major assault on the Sustainable Development Goals, a major setback that is derailing efforts towards achievement of the goals. The adverse impact on fiscal outcomes has been monumental. Program implementation has slowed significantly, and one consequential effect is that the pandemic has indeed widened the huge financing gap faced in SDGs implementation. But the pandemic has also highlighted the urgency of SDGs action and brought to the fore the pressing need to meet citizens' basic needs, the pressing need to save our planet and address inequalities. In fact, amid the pandemic, the SDGs are even more relevant today than ever before. Fortunately for us here in Ghana, there is strong ownership of the SDGs by the NGOs and civil society more broadly. We are blessed in this country to have an active, well-organized civil society strongly committed to the global goals. The CSO platform on the SDGs, made up of over 350 civil society organizations, including local, national, and international NGOs, has been an important partner in joint SDG advocacy, in joint mobilization, in joint planning with government, in joint implementation, and indeed in joint resource monitoring of the global goals. And increasingly, the strategic partnership that has been established with NGOs in this country is seen as an example of good practice, an example of good practice in strategic partnership to find common solutions to common challenges. Friends, it is fair to state that the pandemic has slowed the joint SDGs work with the NGOs in the past several months, but I'm confident that when the effects of the virus abate, the partnership with NGOs will be revitalized into even greater heights. And when this happens, there are 5 broad areas where NGOs can scale up their work to make even greater impact on SDGs implementation. First is in the localization of the SDGs at the subnational level. In this country, working with the CSOs platform, the government has fully integrated the SDGs into the overarching national development strategy, which is the Consolidated Program for Economic and Social Policy Development. And the goals are increasingly influencing the allocation of resources through the national budget. But in my view, where the rubber hits the road in SDGs implementation is at the district and local levels. Greater efforts are needed to support district and metropolitan assemblies to localize the SDGs in their development plans. The NGOs have a clear substantive role to play in making this happen. Second is on sensitization and awareness creation. I'm pleased to state that some good work has been done in raising awareness of the goals across the country, but much more remains to be done to have majority of the population fully understand and fully own the goals. The NGOs do have a crucial role to play in coming up with and supporting creative approaches to awareness raising and sensitization, particularly at the local and community levels. This point for me becomes even more important as the greatest utility of the SDGs lies in the extent to which communities can use the goals to demand accountability from their leaders. Third is in the domain of joint policy and analytics. There is a pressing need for high quality analytics and policy work on the SDGs to really influence policy choices and also to support implementation of the goals. The NGOs are encouraged to scale up joint policy work, particularly around issues such as inclusion, social protection, and particularly in addressing inequalities. Fourth is capacity for implementation. Crucial and strategic capacity gaps remain in implementation of the SDGs, both at the national and local levels. NGOs should scale up their capacity building programs to help address these gaps. Fifth is accountability for results. The NGOs should seek to strengthen their mechanisms for holding government and the private sector accountable for results that they commit to under the Sustainable Development Goals. An important first step was achieved in this country when civil society prepared a shadow report on the voluntary national review that the government presented at the UN in 2019. But such efforts must be broadened and indeed they must be deepened. Sixth is in the domain of innovation and best practices. Successfully leveraging innovation is going to be the key in the success of the Sustainable Development Goals. The NGOs must scale up their efforts in this space and assist in better connecting government to smart innovation, better connecting government to smart solutions, and also to best practices. In conclusion, let me state that the SDGs need the NGOs, and the NGOs do need the Sustainable Development Goals. The challenges to achieving the SDGs are significant and will continue to take bold ambitions, and to resolve these challenges, we'll continue to take bold ambitions in thought and in outcomes. To succeed with the SDGs will continue to require boundless creativity. It will require extraordinarily hard work, and particularly it will require doing business differently. The task ahead is onerous, but personally, I do have great cause for optimism. We, all of us, government, the private sector, civil society entities, all of us must lift our eyes beyond the challenges in implementing this noble agenda to the hopes, to the opportunities, and the human development rewards that lie ahead if we are collectively successful. I thank you so much, Ecobank, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. That was very insightful, Dr. Owusu. If you just joined us, we are currently in a forum or a working session with NGOs, and we're talking about or discussing how we can leverage technology to enhance efficiency of NGO business in Ghana. It was indeed an honor having you with us, Doctor. Your understanding of the SDGs and the insights that you have shared with us is very much appreciated. Thank you once again. Today we would leave, if nothing at all, knowing that we are a voice in the SDGs and co-owners of this goal. and that these SDGs has also helped us to align our priorities. So thank you so much, Doctor. I believe that you'll stay with us for some of the follow-up questions that will come as a result of that very insightful keynote address that you just provided. We also have with us today a very renowned gentleman. Indeed, Ecobank Foundation is an African-focused organization which seeks to transform lives on our continent, with particular focus on health, education, and financial inclusion. We have with us today Mr. Carl Malan, the Chief Operating Officer of the Foundation, to speak with us and to share some ideas. Carl is an economist who has had a long history of contributing to the transformation and development of Africa, especially in the area of health, education, and financial inclusion. Carl has worked with a number of stakeholders, including NGOs and the civil society. Carl, you are most welcome this morning, and thank you very much for taking time to be with us. Carl, your audience.
Thank you very much, Jerita. It's an honor to speak after Dr. Owusu. I had the pleasure of being in Addis Ababa when he was working for UNDP. And when he moved back to Ghana, he also made time to see me while I was living in Ghana. Ghana is very fortunate to have someone like Dr. Owusu that within retirement has chosen to continue to hold the baton of pushing the SDGs in the community. So I'm very grateful, and we should be very grateful for work that he has done and continues to do in Ghana and for the world. I'll pick up from some of the 7 points that Dr. Owusu mentioned. 3 of them, I think, for me, are critical. Number 1 is the alignment with national priorities. And are NGOs aware of what the government is trying to achieve and trying to do in the country? And how do we then move from this alignment to national priorities to take the global social compact that Dr. Owusu spoke about, to transform it into a local social compact? Because that's where we're going to have the synergies between public, private, and civil society organization. The third element that he mentioned is also very important: metrics and measurements. We have now a framework to ensure that whatever we do, we can measure it, and the measurement and the metrics that we use are extremely important for the 3 points that I think lead into the role that we're trying to play in having this conversation with the NGO community. Number 1 is shifting the narrative. And to shift the narrative, you need data. You need to be able to tell a story of transformation. And that story of transformation has value when the national government, in its reporting on the SDGs, can actually ensure that it says, this is the contribution of the country, and this contribution represents not only what national government has done, but civil society, NGO, private sector, in ensuring that we are actually advancing the SDGs. And if we then have this framework in place, it means that it exists. It means that we can start to make the residents of Ghana, and when I talk about residents of Ghana, I'm talking about nationals and others that are living in the country, so that they start to think about, how do I contribute as an individual living in Ghana? It could be my time that I use on weekends to go and support an NGO. It could be financial resources. I pull my friends together to actually raise some funds using digital financial services, so that when we're speaking about domestic resources, we're not just looking at government and private sector, because there's a role for every individual, wherever they are in society, to be able to contribute. Our mothers are very fond of doing susu, as they call it in Ghana. That model of bringing funds together to achieve a certain outcome is not new to the continent, and we should be able to tap into it. The second element for me is around creating awareness. Can we start to create awareness around the work that the government is trying to achieve, and where there are gaps, come with a solution, but not only criticism? Because criticizing without a solution does not resolve a problem for the community that we are trying to improve their lives. And the creation of awareness is based on strong data. If you want to tell a story, of change and how this has impacted the community, you need to have data. The third point for me is, how do we perceive the value of bankers? I am not a banker. I've been spending the past 5 years of my life in Ecobank learning from colleagues that are bankers in what all the skills that are available to them that they can share with the community. Let me name maybe 2 or 3. Let's take accounting. Most NGOs need to ensure that they have good accounting practices. When we come to a financial institution, do we only ask for money, or do we ask them to help us to make sure that our books are in order? Because having the books in order is an opportunity to either get more resources out of what you already have, or make the case to actually have additional resources, because the numbers clearly show that in terms of the impact that you're trying to achieve, more resources are required. Let me take another area of AML CFT that I learned when I spent all this time in the banking sector. Anti-money laundering and CFT, which stands for combating financial terrorism. A lot of organizations need to ensure that when they receive money, that money complies with certain regulations to avoid problems down the line. A financial institution has the capabilities to help. So while we are talking about SMEs that have to come into the banking sector, the same applies to the non-government sector, NGOs. They have to come into the banking sector, because data is not only about the result, it's also about how you actually start the process. The third point is, how do we value non-financial contribution? And the non-financial contribution is, for me, as equally important as the financial contribution. Because once we understand all the skills that are available within the community of bankers, there are some of my colleagues in marketing, my colleague Rita is in communication and marketing, and others have different skills that are important to the NGO sector. Let me close by giving you one example. At the moment, Ecobank has taken on the work of making sure that 26 million customers and more know about what is chronic malnutrition. Why does a bank get involved into chronic malnutrition? Because our focus is on young people. But we want to make sure that when young people arrive at a certain age, they're not suffering from chronic malnutrition. If you don't know, 70% of the brain connections are made within the first 1,000 days of the life of an individual. These 1,000 days includes the 9 months in the womb. So when we're looking at chronic malnutrition, we're not only looking at the child, but we're also looking at maternal health. Why do we think this is important? Because we can use the platform that Ecobank has, not only in Ghana, but outside, to ensure that 26 million people know about what's chronic malnutrition. Just imagine the power of 26 million deciding that they want to each contribute a cedi, 5 cedi, $1, to make sure that no child on the continent suffers from chronic malnutrition. Well, Ecobank has a digital financial services platform for that. And that is some of the things that when NGOs look at the financial institution, need to think about what is the potential of this, of partnering with this institution. Even if I don't get a check, there are so many more things that I can get. And my final point is that 5 years ago, when I joined the bank, I understood that the business of a bank is not to give money. And by understanding that the business is not to give money, but to reinforce system and to ensure that the system is working, it is very close to what we're trying to achieve with health system, for example. How do we ensure that our system function so that the resources that exist and are available for us actually take us a little bit further? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carl. Thank you. That was very insightful. Networking activities support NGO activities and provides a linkage between NGOs and other organizations. This, in fact, leads to development of more effective and innovative programs and solutions. We have with us this morning the director of SEND Ghana, the country director of SEND Ghana, Mr. George Osei Akutobimpe. Actually, George first joined SEND Ghana in 2008. He joined as a program officer in charge of trade and agriculture, policy research and advocacy. He was later promoted to the Director of Programs and Advocacy before assuming the highest position in the organization as Country Director for SEND Ghana. Mr. Osei Akutobimpe, you are most welcome. Thank you very much for taking time off your busy schedule to be with us. Please, before you come in, I just wanted to also entreat Mr. Carl Malan to stay on. Carl, I think that people would be very much interested in some of the things that you have just, some of the information that you have just provided, and I'm sure we'll have questions for you. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you so much. George, please, your audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, Dr. Owusu, Mr. Malan, Madam Amankwa, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much to Ecobank for the invitation to share our experience with networking as a strategy for developing NGOs. I will talk briefly about, give some background information. I will discuss what networking that we are talking about. I will look for justification as to why NGOs must be concerned about networking, share my views on what I consider to be some principles that one can look at, then provide some tips on steps for building networks. First of all, I am not interested today to talk about computer networking. That is not my area of competence. I'm combining two things. As NGOs, we belong to different networks that are loosely, sometimes we loosely define them as platforms, coalitions, and so on and so forth. What I'll be talking about will be related to that. But I'm also interested in dwelling more on networking as a business concept, where business leaders have used to develop their business, roll out their business strategies. And I think that as NGOs, we have a lot to learn from how business, businesses have used networking expertise to build their organization. So I am interested to then define network as exchange of information, ideas among people with common profession and special interest. And oftentimes, these are done in informal social settings. I must say that sometimes networking can be formal, but those are sometimes on limited basis. So I think that for NGOs, we should be interested in networking as a strategy and borrow some experiences from businesses for a number of reasons. First of all, it is good, networking is good for expanding our circle of acquaintances. The second point I want to make is about how we use networking to find out about opportunities in particular fields. And in this case, we heard Dr. also talk about a number of responsibilities and at the same time opportunities. The same thing as Mr. Malan, who has also given us a lot of opportunities that abound in the field that we operate. The issue is, how do we find out about opportunities in our field? You can do so a lot more about, you can do so through networking. Oftentimes, the mistake that those of us in civil society we make is that we wait for a donor to advertise before we respond, or we wait to, if a nose around, to go to some few donors to find out what we can do with them. We don't really prioritize networking, and so we often lose out on a lot of opportunities. So I'm not surprised that some people are, for example, itching to ask Mr. Malan a lot of questions, because he has opened a Pandora box as to the existence of a lot of opportunities that NGOs can explore. The second point is about increasing, the third point I must say, is about increasing awareness of trends and news in the field that we operate. our field is very fluid. And one of the best ways to stay on top and sustain ourselves and maintain our relevance is to get to know what is happening at any point in time. The fourth point I want to make is about developing relationships with people and organizations, not only for today's business, but for future partnership and businesses. And oftentimes, the mistake that many of us in NGO we make is that we only approach people for immediate result without investing in future partnership. And it's important that we make every effort to sustain networking, networking in order to, take advantage of future opportunities. And the fifth point I want to make is about professional networking platforms. These days, there are a lot of such platforms that exist online. Though I am not particularly interested in online meetings, but COVID has taught us that we can do a lot of things. We can network, online, and so there are a lot of professional, blogs, information sharing platform posts that we can do. One of the common things that I have used and many have used to build a lot of partnership is LinkedIn. That many of us sometimes we think that we are only advertising for a job, but we don't look at how we can link up with other organizations to take advantage of future opportunities. So basically, it is important that we know that we are talking about using networking to share information and build knowledge, promoting communication about what we are doing and what we intend to do, and then using network as a mechanism for effective catalyst for building up relationship. And I think I have talked about that. But it's important to also say that building trust and relationship is is an important mechanism for using network as a strategy for developing NGOs, and serving as a networking then serves as a mutual learning and capacity building mechanism. Dr. Owusu talked about that, and Mr. Malan also talked about that. We don't go into networking with the objective of only looking for funds, and that's the mistake that NGOs make. We go to networking to inquire about to talk about our capacity needs and seek opportunities to address those capacity needs. And in this particular case, if we can make contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals in the way that were spelled out by Dr. Owusu, it is important that we take advantage of networks to build our capacity, take advantage of training opportunities, and so that we can make our contribution felt. Having said that, there are some principles that I think will be very important for networking. And the first thing that the first point I will make here is that it is important that we give more than you get. In networking, we need to remember that it is not a one-way affair. It is a two-way street kind of engagement. So you give and you take. You don't go into networking expecting to only get. It doesn't, that is not networking, because there isn't anything mutually beneficial in that. For example, if you are approaching Ecobank Foundation for some project, you will need to tell Ecobank what Ecobank stands to get from that. And if you cannot convince Ecobank, certainly Ecobank will not invest in the initiative that you want to take. And so we need to be mindful about what we give and what we take. And oftentimes we should strive to give more than we expect to take home. And the next principle is about being genuine. It is personal, so prioritize personal aspect of it. We cannot be fake in building networks, because eventually that will be found out. The third point I want to make here is about proactiveness. If you are starting from the scratch, especially those burgeoning NGOs, if you are starting from the scratch, you will need to take action in order to build your network, and you will have to be very proactive. One thing that people often do is to go around distributing their complementary cards. And let me say that it puts a lot of people off. One strategy that has worked for me is that whenever before I distribute my complementary card, I will have to tell you what I do and what I can do or what my organization does and what it can do and what it is doing and how my organization can be of benefit to whoever I am talking to before I go ahead to give complimentary card. People who have given me complimentary card without telling me what they do, I tend to forget about it or I tend to ignore it. And so we need to be mindful about that. That next point is about taking a long-term approach. And I think I have talked about this. Do not expect quick wins when you are building network. Look into the future to do that. Then I want to talk about the need to prioritize quality over quantity. You do not have to maintain a whole lot of organizations in your network if there's nothing qualitative of it. It is important that because networking takes a lot of time, you need to prioritize the issue of quantity over quality. Then I would say do not focus only on industry players. For example, if you want to engage Dr. Owusu, it will be very difficult because Dr. Owusu is engaging a number of people on every day, but there are some people in Dr. Owusu's office who can get the years of Dr. Owusu. So it is important that we don't only target industry leaders, but people who play critical and strategic role in industries that we want to network with. But of course, we are saying that you are networking, which means that you are approaching somebody. You cannot approach somebody and get results without you yourself not being approachable. So the next strategy is for us to be approachable. That is, while it is important that you take action when it comes to networking, it is also important to that others are able to easily reach out to you. If people find it difficult to reach out to you, you may not be able to sustain networking, no matter how good it may have started. And of course, set aside time for networking. I've talked about that. And you need to be organized when we are building networks. You will, of course, want to have easy access to contact information of everyone in your network. And I will say that find out if it is helpful to have a list of people that you will consider to be in your network. And so if you are not very organized, you will build contact, but at the end of the day, you will lose all of them because you will not be able to pay attention to this. And the last principle I will give is about trying as much as possible to network in person. And I say when possible. But of course, COVID has changed the dynamism, yet we still have to find a way to do that. And so I will end with some tips on steps that we can use to build network. The first is to take initiative. It is important that we take initiative. The second is for us to be interested in participating in events. That is very important. The next one is to create a database of contacts. Of course, the way we manage our contacts, sometimes we are looking for information and we don't even know whether I save Mr. Owusu's Dr. Owusu's name as Dr. Owusu SDG advisor or Dr. Owusu Mechelen because I met him in Mechelen. How do we organize our database as an organization so that when you are not there as a leader, whoever takes over from you can go into that database and build from where you left off. We don't have to necessarily personalize networking so that when you are not there, that institutional memory is lost. And that means that you have to invest in information storage and retrieval as an organization and prioritize it as part of your daily routine. And of course, exchanging information is very important in this regard. The last 2 points I want to make is that we will need to show interest and remember the principle of reciprocity. Like I said, you give and take. You cannot be in a network and only expect to be giving. You give and take. And finally, you will need to figure out networking online and offline. And I think I have made that point. Lastly, remember that it is humans you are dealing with. So therefore, in any sector, organization, or industry, a lot of human factors come into the picture. So networking does not only have a rational basis, but emotional too. So if you don't know how to manage your emotional, intelligence, it will be difficult to maintain network. So be nice and greet people you meet. Introduce yourself, get to know about others. Try to stay in touch. You might not like all the people you need to meet, but be aware of your emotional responses and try not to strike a balance. Madam Moderator, thank you very much.
Very much, Mr. George Akoto-Bimpon. Indeed, we've learned so much, and we're very grateful to you. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to leave your comments and questions in the Q&A section on your screen so that we can do our very best to answer it. Mr. Osei Akoto, please, if you could also remain with us, because I know that you also have a number of questions. People are very interested in the networking aspect of the business, because this will ensure that, you know, the business flourishes, or the particular NGO flourishes. And so we'll need you to answer these questions for us. Now, to provide insights into how Ecobank is prepared and positioned to support and empower NGOs, we would like you to meet our next speaker, Madame Sewa Akoto-Yorsen of Ecobank Cash Management team. Dear Sewa, you are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. A very good morning to Dr. Wusu, Mr. Osei Akoto-Bimpon, and our very own Carl Manlan. We say thank you very much for being a part of our morning. And to you, our very distinguished guests who have taken time off your busy schedules to spend time with us, to listen to what we have to share. If you could kindly permit me to share my screen, it'll just be a minute, and I will share the good news that Ecobank has for you. I will be glad if you could confirm that you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
Super. All right. So when my colleagues in commercial banking, particularly the public sector segment, mentioned that this is some engagement they wanted to have with their NGO customers, I said, we need to have in-depth understanding of what their cash needs are. How do they receive money? How do they spend it? And so this was the basis of our conversation with a number of you, our NGO partners. We began off by having an understanding of how funds come into the bank and how those funds are stored, especially within the period where they are not ready to spend. And this led us to a couple of observations that we would like to share with you. So we came up with, let's call it a sample client that we are calling Inshira Foundation. Inshira Foundation was a typical NGO amongst the ones that we had spoken to, and they were involved in supporting adult education in Ghana. 70% of all their funds came from outside of Ghana, and another 30% was sourced locally. Thinking about this, we said, what will be the best way to assist Inshira Foundation and similar organizations like it? Today, Ecobank has a payment link, and you may have noticed, for some of you who go to church online, you may have noticed that sometimes there is a link that scrolls at the bottom of the screen as your church broadcasts the services, and it says, pay via mobile money, pay using your card, debit card, credit card, MasterCard or Visa, or pay via QR. This is the sort of link that we provide to companies such as Insura Foundation. The beautiful part about this link is that it's a multi-channel payment platform, meaning that it has the ability to collect from multiple funding sources, one of which is the very popular mobile money wallet from MTN. We have Airtel, Tigo, and Vodafone as well. Our payment link is able to accept payments from all card schemes, Visa, MasterCard, and it doesn't matter the type of Visa card or MasterCard. Payments are possible using this link. Then we also have GHQR, which is a locally unified QR code, which is now accessible for all banks within Ghana. Typically, our customers who use our payment links are able to receive and monitor all their funds from a single source. So you don't have to run around figuring out what money has gone to your MTN mobile money wallet, find out how much money came on from card payments and how much money came from Vodafone. All of that is in one place. And this resource is made available to our NGO clients who sign up for this service. Because you have the ability to see all your payments from one platform, it makes reconciliation seamless and very efficient. Then, of course, you don't need to figure out when to move money from the various funding sources into your main operating bank account. This is done seamlessly and is automated. This link works best for our customers who have websites. And if you do not have a website, let me just share that we are also able to help you on that journey to quickly come online and then fully digitize your existence on the World Wide Web. We also have our best-in-class internet banking platform, OmniLite and OmniPlus. Some of you may know of OmniLite or OmniPlus. Either of these platforms are available for our business customers. And we want to begin by giving you great comfort around the security of these internet banking platforms. Some of you have raised concerns around how secure this is. So OmniLite and OmniPlus, both of these run on world-class secure socket layer protocols. This is the internet protocols used for financial services online. Then we also have the ability to give you an additional layer of security beyond logging in with your username and password. This comes in the form of a software that sits on your phone. It's a small app. Anytime you want to log into your internet banking, you will be required to provide a one-time password that will appear on this app, which will be only visible to you. And it is only when you have provided this sort of one-time password that you are able to enter into your internet banking profile. Also, for us, we believe that we should have no other forms of authorization outside of what exists on your mandate, what you signed off. So anyone who should have access to authorized transactions on our internet banking platforms should already be registered as a signatory on the various accounts you have opened with us. And we take these approving rights very seriously. An additional level of comfort is the audit trail, which gives accountability for everybody who has used your business profile over the internet banking platforms we provide. And finally, let me share with you some of the capabilities we have on our internet banking platform. Most of our customers today use OmniLite and OmniPlus to make payroll payments. And these are either in single payments or bulk payments. Even here, we are able to provide confidentiality controls, meaning that the internet banking payments you are making could be made in such a way that only specific persons within your organization can see the details of the payment. And this, we believe, is a very neat feature. And we think that a lot of our partners would be interested in this feature. We are able to also provide bulk payment capabilities to other bank accounts and even to mobile money wallets as well. We are also able to effect vendor payments and supplier payments from approved beneficiaries that you as a business would have predefined. Of course, we've already mentioned payroll payments, and we are able to also do cross-border transfers to any country so long as we have accurate beneficiary bank details for that beneficiary. Another key requirement in our conversations with some of the NGOs that we interacted with was the need for Forex conversions. So today we know that because a lot of the funds that are received for our NGO businesses come from abroad, and some of your commitments are local, there will be the need to convert these funds into local currency. FX conversions are possible on OmniLite and on OmniPlus at competitive negotiated rates. And so you are able to negotiate these rates on the platform with our Treasury colleagues. And speaking of Treasury colleagues, we also have with us our colleague from Treasury who is going to share with us some tidbits on what the foreign exchange regime in Ghana is and how it applies to your business. We think that you'll find that interesting.
Thank you, Sewa. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Rita.
Yeah, so with respect to the information on some of the Treasury issues that they have, the audience will provide Gina, who is currently here with us and who represents Treasury. The audience will provide her with the various questions that they have, and Gina will do her very best to answer it. Madam Chumesi, you are most welcome, and thank you very much for making yourself available. At this point, we want to hear from our audience. We've received a number of questions and comments, and we'll do our very best to exhaust all of them, but kindly pardon us if we are not able to do so due to time constraints. Answers to all unanswered questions will be made available after this event. Maxline, who is Ecobank's main contact and whom I'm sure you are all familiar with, will arrange this post-event activity. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Usu, good morning once again. And the first question is from you, and it reads, what does the government have for us? That is the NGOs, looking at the level of impact and what we are doing in the country. And we want to know the support really in the area of tax, duty, and other incentives. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator again. I was hoping that all the easy questions will be directed towards me and all the very difficult ones will be channeled to my good friend and brother Carl. But as it is, you know, let me just directly respond to this question. I don't have a perfect answer to the question. I'm just going to hazard. I mean, the NGOs are a key partner for government in delivering development solutions. I don't think that's contested. And I will also say that the value of NGOs' policy contributions, the capacity building work that they do, the direct implementation of projects, this is all recognized by government and certainly appreciated by government. I think in that context, therefore, my own humble view is that it is in the enlightened interest of government to seek to incentivize the work of NGOs, to facilitate their work, and also to enhance, to help enhance the impact of their work. But I'm going to turn this around as a challenge for the NGOs. I mean, given what the context that I've set, I have a strong sense that if the NGOs do make a solid business case for particular incentives, and given the quality of partnership that the government does have with the NGOs, if that solid business case is certainly made, I'm very confident that the relevant part of government will positively consider the submission that certainly is made by the NGO. So I think for me, the onus, quite frankly, is on the NGOs to really make a pitch. And then some of us in government will act as champions to support that pitch that indeed the NGO community does make.
Rita, I want to add one thing to this. I think 2 years ago, I was looking at the data of a number of registered NGOs in Ghana, and there were about 300,000. And I think that number might have gone up, and my friends here can correct. With a population of 30 million people in Ghana, it means that there's one NGO for every 100 person in Ghana. We should ask ourselves a question: do we need so many NGOs? And are the resources that we're pushing towards these 300,000 NGOs can be used differently? And that sort of self-assessment of the NGO community is critical in the engagement that we want to have to move the needle of development forward. Thank you.
Very much. These are very interesting perspectives, and it even leads to more things that we can discuss in the future as we forge ahead as a team. Thank you very much, Dr. Wusu, and thank you, Carl, for your contribution as well. Dr. Wusu, the next question is also directed at you, and it reads, please, in deepening collaboration with government, in working together for SDGs, how can we ensure loyalty from both sides and mutual respect? And this question is coming from Isaac Poma, concernhealth.ngo. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. I think this question is really spot on. Again, my very strong view is that clearly trust and respect are essential commodities. I call them important softwares for any successful partnership. I think that for me is a given. But the reality is that, and I'm speaking candidly here, government and NGOs do have slightly different DNAs. And I think we need to certainly understand that. And government and NGOs do have slightly different approaches to certainly doing business. Fortunately, in this country, most of the time, government and the NGO community are fully aligned on issues. Of course, there are occasions where there are divergences in perspectives, etc., which sometimes creates toxic feelings, and that is a human factor. That's human nature, particularly when it comes to issues around democratic space, human rights, etc. One should expect that occasionally there are frictions, but I think by and large, there is a great alignment between the NGOs and government. I think what we will need to do is to continue to create opportunities to enable government and NGOs and better understand each other, and also appreciate the fact that a strong partnership between government and NGOs is mutually beneficial. And underpinning this partnership must be the important point that has been made, which is on trust and respect. The fortunate thing for us in Ghana is that the whole SDG enterprise, in my view, and my good friend George is here, the whole SDG enterprise has brought the government and the NGO community much closer together in the context of the architecture that we have to support the implementation of the SDGs. For instance, I mean, the government thinks together with the NGOs, it plans together with the NGOs, and it tries to deliver solutions together with the NGOs when it comes to the Sustainable Development Goals. The NGOs sit through George's leadership on the SDGs Implementation Committee. I believe they even sit on the technical committee. And I think by planning together, increasingly we are becoming a bit more organic, in that respect. We are better understanding each other, and we are bridging the gulf between NGOs and government. And I think that for me is a good thing, and we need to take this to scale and look for more opportunities to do so. I think that is what will really maximize the trust and the respect that we are talking about. Let me just land by saying that, again, personal experience, and I'm happy George is here. In 2019, this country, Ghana, was supposed to present its voluntary national review on the Sustainable Development Goals to the entire international community. Now, during the high-level political forum where we presented the VNR, we had a Ghana side event. And I'm pleased to share with the audience that this side event was jointly planned by government, the private sector, through the CEO's advisory group on the SDGs, and indeed the civil society organizations. This for me was a classic situation where all the different parts of the house were working together, certainly as one. And we went as one entity to the United Nations to tell the Ghana story to the international community. I think the more we embark on enterprises like that, I think the greater the prospects that we will narrow any trust deficit, any respect deficit that exists between us. So I think my message is let's continue to work together. Let's take the relationship that we have now to scale, and let's work together to really reduce any perceived trust deficit that exists between our two different communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The next question is directed at our two bankers, Madame Charlotte Amankwa and Carl Malam. And it says, many CSOs see financial institutions as avenues for accessing funds. What other opportunities exist in Ecobank other than finance as far as CSOs are concerned? Charlotte, if you could first enlighten us, and then Mr. Malan could also contribute. Thank you.
Rita, and thanks to our participant for that question. I think it's an apt inquiry because for us in Ecobank, we are interested in a holistic relationship with our clients, including NGOs and CSOs like we have in our audience today. I'll just touch on one aspect, a demonstration of which is the workshop or forum webinar that we've had today. We are interested in building capacity, sharing knowledge with our clients beyond the provision of physical funds only. I'm sure that participants may be aware that the Ecobank vision is to impact both economically and financially the continent within which we operate. And over the years, we've always said that as a bank, our focus or our strategy is Africa in itself. So building capacity, sharing knowledge, bringing together thought leaders, as we have seen this morning, is indeed one of the focus areas, the key ways by which we touch the entities that we work with. We believe that when our clients are equipped with the skill sets and the knowledge that they need to operate their entities well, it actually makes them better candidates into the future, and their businesses are sustained beyond us giving them just financing. So those are some thoughts that I can share in terms of our support, and we will continue to do that as a bank. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mallon.
I'll add to what Charlotte has mentioned, the probably unknown Ecobank Academy. So Ecobank as an academy which has been designed to train Ecobank staff. Over the past 5 years, we have slowly, with the support of our colleagues, transformed this academy into an institution that supports civil society organizations. Last year in December, they hosted a training program in financial management for the network of NCD, Non-Communicable Disease Alliance, all over the world. 30 countries from South America to Southeast Asia, including Africa, participate in that training at no cost to the sector. 3 years ago, we went to the NCD Alliance and asked them to help us in designing our 3-year non-communicable disease program. They did it for us at no cost because they understood the value of partnering with a financial institution or a bank on the continent. Last year, Ecobank, with the support of all the different affiliates, so when I speak about pooling resources, we also do it internally. We donated, our group CEO announced a donation of $100,000 to the NCD Alliance to support CSOs in Africa that are fighting non-communicable disease. So that partnership was built with an investment from the civil society organization into it. The value was demonstrated, and it was an easy case to make internally to raise funds for that CSO or NGO. We have other examples. With the national societies of the Red Cross and Red Crescent societies, about 3 years ago, the entire leadership of Africa from different parts of the continent came to Lomé, Togo, at the Pan-African Center for a 4-day leadership training and financial management designed by Ecobank Academy. And this was also done in collaboration with IFRC Africa and the national society organizations. So we have multiple examples of how NGOs have chosen to collaborate with Ecobank because they took time to understand what Ecobank is trying to do and what are the capabilities that are available. So when you come and speak to my colleague Charlotte, you shouldn't come and ask her for money. You should ask her to help you to design your organization in a way that you can make better use of the resources that you have. And my last example, many of you may be familiar with the Global Fund to fight AIDS, TB, and malaria. We have done the same for the finance managers of health programs in the different countries, in some of the countries that are operating in Africa, in supporting them in understanding that their role as a finance manager is just not to reject requests for funding, but it's to ensure that every time they look at the budget, they think about the life that they have to save by ensuring that that budget makes sense. And that's some of the things that we do. How do you stretch the money that you have by being better equipped in terms of skills? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that response. And then Reginald, also a member of this forum, is asking, he's saying that Mr. Osei-Bempah, great presentation, and he wants to know what qualities you mostly admire in professionals and people within your network. He wants insights into that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think personally, the first thing that I seek is clarity of objective. If you are dealing with someone and that a person is not clear with what he or she wants, that is very difficult to work with such a person or to network with such a person. So clarity of intention or objective is very important. I think that another quality would be a demonstration of knowledge in my area. So for example, I get, I get what you call it, you earn a lot of admiration if you know my area, and I get surprised that, oh, actually she knows the stuff. And so that is a quality that, and it's very good because it makes it easy to communicate and deal with such a person. So that's one such quality. In other words, when you are going to talk to Ecobank, understand what the Ecobank Foundation does. It's not just about dishing out money. Understand what they do and how they can help help you. It is very important so that Carl will not dismiss you. The other quality that I look for, you see, it's good that we learn to listen. So, I mean, when you meet someone and the person only wants to talk about what she or he seeks to achieve and is not ready to listen to you, it's a put off. And so the quality of listening and trying to understand, having an inquiring mind is very important because it helps to either clear some perceptions, misconceptions that you may have had, or even clear your thoughts. That's very important. Of course, I don't want to meet someone who comes to me boasting, and I have done this and talking about himself all the time. It's good that you give some people the opportunity to do that. But above all, understanding the value of partnership. I mean, somebody who understands the value of partnership, understands what he or she can understand that it's not just a one-way affair, and that he stands to benefit from the partnership that you are building together. These are very important, and flexibility to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes, not to shift blames. Those are some important qualities that are very important when you network and build partnerships. Thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. And Isaac Ampoma is also commending Carl for the presentation. And what he wants to know is, as NGOs, how can they ensure a sustainable system that will attract the banking and financial sector? He wants to know if they will be measured by the same scale of corporate governance. He indicates that most NGOs have emerged because they see one humanitarian problem or the other. And they normally don't come up as a result of some kind of academia that they have been involved in. And for him, this means that even the market woman with less information is legally allowed to set up an NGO. And so if this individual does that, what do they need to know or do to ensure that they maintain the standard so that no one is left behind? This question is particularly interesting because it reminds me of something that Patrick Ewua of Maseshi University said. He indicated that corporate governance really can be practiced anywhere, whether you are a market woman or a big corporate body. It is really your ability to do simple things like isolating your business funds from that of your personal funds, and so many other simple factors to that effect. So Isaac Ampoma, this is a very interesting question, and we will give Mr. Kalmalan the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think the governance element, it is key in our personal lives, in our public lives, for an NGO, for private sector, public sector. When we have systems in place that guarantee the integrity of a process, and we have defined the purpose, we now can speak about leaving no one behind. But if the governance and the process that is in place is wobbly, is not standing on anything strong, you run the risk of starting to want to do good, but you are faced with a very important challenge. You cannot. Because what is expected to ensure that you give accountability to those that have entrusted you with a leadership position or have entrusted you with funds is not in place. So that is extremely important. The second element, once you have resolved a governance element, is what is your purpose? What is the purpose of the entity that you want to create? If there's already one in place, do you rather partner with that entity or you just want to plant your flag? Because if it's a business of planting flags, well, everybody can plant a flag, but we will not necessarily achieve that outcome. Let's think about the banking sector in Ghana. I think last year or 2 years ago, the central bank decided it was time to do some work around consolidation. They looked at that work to say, okay, with 30 million people, do we need so many banks? Maybe that was one of the questions. I was not in that meeting. With so many people in Ghana, do we need so many NGOs? That question, I come back to it because it's extremely important. We can't ask of government to be doing certain things in terms of governance. And on the other side, the behavior and sometimes the practice does not respect those same governance mechanisms that we expect the government or the private sector to be able to hold. We have to hold each other accountable. And it means that we need to start looking at the same frame of reference. I'm not asking a small NGO to have in its board 50 people that need to receive funding for the fact that they sit in that board. I'll give you an example. When I used to live in Ghana, the executive director of WACSI, West African Civil Society Institute, came to see me. She came and she said, I didn't come to ask you for anything except your time. Would you be willing to sit on the board of WACSI? I said, well, I'm very honored because this is a learning opportunity to me to understand how the civil society works in Ghana and also in West Africa, but to learn and understand how there's a work that I do on a daily basis in trying to understand better ways to serve a community can be done. I've been on that board for more than 3 years. On a Saturday morning, I'll spend the time to be on that board whenever I can help. But that's my personal contribution that I think is important to think of how do I get Charlotte or Rita to spend some time in helping improving the governance of my institutions so that it's not just a tick box that I have Carl sitting on my board, but actually Carl is helping me to improve the way things are done because he has experience and expertise somewhere else. When we start to think about this engagement as collaborative, when we start to think about it in terms of value addition from each parties, we all stand to benefit. And I think for me, that is really the essence of how we need to structure this work. If we get to the point where we no longer see it as us versus them, but we are invested to ensure that the community is not left behind. And what does it mean? It means that I have taken the time to observe what's happening in that landscape. Do we need another NGO or do I need to give my skills and resources to an existing entity so that the work can go faster? If we start to think about in that way, we will see that we actually have abundant resources on Ghana and on the continent to solve some of these problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carl, for that answer. The next question is from Ernestina, and again, it goes to Mr. Malland, and it reads, she would like to confirm, following up on something that Mr. Bimpa raised, that does Ecobank Foundation give donations to local NGOs? And if yes, what the procedure is? Thank you.
So the answer to this question, I'll take it differently. Don't think about receiving a check from a bank. Think about what am I adding to the society and how do I get either Ecobank or any other party in that ecosystem to want to invest in what I do because it's where they are going. The second thing that people need to look at is, number one, read the annual report of Ecobank Ghana. It will give you a sense of what this bank is trying to do and how the work that you intend to do fits or doesn't fit with where they are going. The second thing, understand the budget cycle. If you show up at the door after budget has been approved, there's no way, because nobody wants to go through extra budgetary approval. It is a painful process, and you really have to come with a solid case as to why you want to do this outside of a normal budgetary process. If these two elements are fully understood and actually appreciated, when you show up and you say, I have this initiative that will complement what you're already doing, you will have a listening ear. If you come and say, please sign me a check I'll show you in a year's time how wonderful I did with your money. Impossible, because a bank is designed to do wonderful things with money. So you cannot compete with a bank in doing wonderful things with money. But you can compete with a bank in showing the institution and the foundation of a bank that I have a solution to a problem that I think you're not yet addressing in the community. If we have this understanding of the fact that the foundation of a bank cannot be too far to what the bank is trying to do. And I spend a lot of time responding to emails or letters, explaining to people that it's not because we don't want to give money, but it has to be in line with what we're trying to do. And that extra work, but critical work, of reading about the institution that the foundation belongs to and looking at what they've been doing in the past may help to resolve this element around, do I actually send a proposal for funding to this institution, or do I send a request for non-financial support? So that I build the relationship with the members of that institution, so that when it's budget time, it's not just Rita and Carl that talk about the work that you're doing, but Charlotte, who's in charge of the business segment, start to speak about the value of this work in the strategy that Ecobank has laid out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Carl. And please, the next question, and we will take that from Carl as well as Charlotte. And it reads, can there be some light shed on how Ecobank is leveraging on its wide presence in West Africa to influence lives with the no one behind mantra as far as SDGs is concerned? So Carl, the question is, can there be some light or additional light shed on how Ecobank is leveraging on its wide presence in West Africa to influence the lives of people, and especially in respect of the mantra, as far as SDG is concerned, no one left behind?
Okay, so if we take the financial institution and financial inclusion as one of the central tenets of what Ecobank has to do, the unified QR code that was shown has been in collaboration with the government with support of Ecobank to get to that outcome. Why is this important? It is ensuring that payments are facilitated within the ecosystem, so that if I choose from Togo, where I live, to send money to an NGO in Ghana, I can scan that QR code and the money can be received. The impact of this is that you have a possibility to demonstrate to potential donors how you receive money. I'll give you an example of an NGO that came and needed to pay for the work that was being done in northern Ghana. What we said to them is like, we have a solution. We can allow you we will stop you from carrying cash from Accra to that part. Deposit the money here, give us the telephone numbers of all these individuals, and ensure that you are okay for us to open the account remotely. The accounts were open, money was transferred. Leaving no one behind in the context of Ecobank means that we leverage our capabilities to improve the way individuals connect, receive funding, and actually use that funding. Let me give you another example. When a bank like Ecobank decides to have a focus for 3 years on non-communicable diseases, we made that choice. Why? Because our colleagues, we ran a survey and our colleagues felt that it was important for us to have a focus on non-communicable disease. I mentioned that we want to speak to the NCD Alliance because we don't have the skills. But when Ecobank, for 3 years in a row, chooses to focus on non-communicable diseases, year 1 was cervical cancer, year 2 was diabetes, this year we're looking at mental health. How many financial institutions do you know speak about mental health? So in terms of leaving no one behind, we start by who we are as an institution, the 14,000 colleagues that we have across Africa and other parts of the world, Then we go to the 26 million customers that we have to ensure that they know about the impact of NCDs on their daily life. They know about chronic malnutrition that we're touching on. In West Africa, we have, and that with my last example, we started a program in Benin, Burkina Faso, and Senegal, focusing on how SMEs can be leaders in the fight against malaria. Why do we do this? Because we understand that with a portfolio of SMEs that we have, you cannot always have a leader of a big company, but you need to start to have leaders of SMEs that are closer to the community to be the face and the voice of that fight against malaria. If we succeed in doing this, it will be a different way in terms of one, looking at how do you fight malaria using the power of CEOs of SMEs and the companies. So the work we do is intrinsically connected to how the bank is shaped, and we use that platform to connect to 14,000 people as staff, but also to 26 million customers across Africa. I hope that gives some insight in terms of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. The next question is for Sewa Akutu. What options are available for bulk mobile money payment to beneficiaries of NGOs? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita, for that question. As I indicated during my presentation, today, on both OmniLite and OmniPlus, we have the capability to share an upload file template with our customers. And in that template, our clients can input the beneficiary details of up to 1,000 beneficiaries and then upload those details into our platforms, either OmniLite or OmniPlus. And we are willing to walk our clients through the steps for making this happen. But these features are currently available. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sewa. We have so many questions for all the people here, and we might not be able to go through with all of them, but we'll try and take a few. The next question goes to Mr. George Osei Akutu, and sorry, Mr. George Osei Akutu Dimpe, and it is, they would like to know the various platforms that they could connect to facilitate networking.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I have privately responded to the person. Luckily, Mr. Kojo Owusu Otin, who is the coordinator of the SDG platform, is on this call. So colleagues who are interested, kindly contact him so that he can link you to the various 17 or so platforms under the SDG, the broader SDG platform. Madam Chair, if you permit me, there was a question about how we can engage the private sector. Since I have the floor, if I have your permission. So I think I've forgotten the name of the person who put the question there. The first point I want to make is that in Ghana, the private sector has a different philosophy on philanthropy. They prefer to invest in what I call tangibles. Few do invest in the other well-being interventions like the one that Ecobank talked about. So the first thing that we need to do is to begin to engage the private sector for them to see the value that we can add. For example, if the private sector is peeved about the government tax regime, and we have CSOs that are working on fiscal policies, how can we link our work with such a private sector so that when they are supporting us, our work will be to creating or engaging government to create an enabling environment for whether it's a progressive tax regime that we want. I'm just citing that as an example. So we will need to do that. But some of the things that we have done in the past, and I think Dr. Usu talked about that, where we have, for example, engaged organizations like Deloitte to, and then the private sector, is it private something federation? I've forgotten the name, PEF, to do joint plan, PEF, to do joint planning for engagement, and we have done it not only in Ghana, but as far as planning event in New York, where all of us we share a common table. So we don't usually go into this kind of engagement with the private sector seeking to leverage resources, but also working together. In the course of it, if it so happens that they will support the intervention, we thank God. Actually, I was talking about private enterprise federation. So we need to work on the philosophy so that they don't see investment in intangibles as the only way to invest in SDGs, but supporting capacities of civil society that can do advocacy to create an enabling environment for businesses to flourish is an important thing, and we haven't been linking our work or we haven't demonstrated the value addition, and we need to do a lot of reflection on the value that we add to the private sector when we are engaging them. Thank you, please. Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, thank you too. And thank you very much for that insight and for drawing our attention to the question at hand. The next question relates to internet banking. I don't know whether Sewa Yorson is there to take it, but the question is, working with internet banking system, does it mean every staff will be required to have the app to make a withdrawal? And he wants you to consider the practice that in NGO programs, officers are usually given checks in their names to clear for field activities, and then they retire these advances after the completion of those specific activities. So George wants more insight into how this can be best approached. Sewa.
Thank you very much, George, for your question. I will answer it in a series of options, not limited necessarily to internet banking. So what we typically would advise in George's situation is to have the normal finance team have access to the internet banking platform that they would opt for. Then the finance team can have someone sort of load funds onto prepaid cards for field workers. Prepaid cards are made available to our customers once they request for it. You provide some identification, locally accepted identification, and you fill the form. Then we provide a prepaid card for your field workers. This can be done in bulk. Once we receive the necessary sign-offs from George's entity, then we will proceed to fund these cards so that customers who are within towns and cities where they can draw on ATMs for the funds can do so. Alternatively, our internet banking platforms also have the capability to debit the NGO's account and credit a mobile money wallet. So this is also another option that we can provide to the NGOs so that they can provide funds to their agents whilst they are on the field. And I believe that there's a wide expanse of mobile money networks that allows for them to cash out easily. Alternatively, the team within his finance office can also ask for cash to be disbursed within our banking halls to these persons who may need money at a certain point in time for their business and operational activities. So these are all the ways in which field agents can get funding without being necessarily users on the internet banking platform. We typically would advise that the users there are sort of limited to the standard operating and admin staff within the entity. I hope that my answer has been helpful, George. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sewa. Yes, your answer, I'm sure, has been very helpful. We have answered a number of questions, but of course, as I indicated at the beginning of this session, pardon us if we are not able to answer all your questions. This may be due to time constraints, and answers to all unanswered questions, as I said, will be made available after the event. And so please, Maxlin will contact all of us and will ensure that we get the answers to all the questions that our colleagues have asked for. Now we are almost at the end of the webinar, but before we say goodbye, we would like to take closing remarks from the head of public sector. The head of Ecobank's public sector, which caters to NGOs, is Mr. Abraham Edukwateng. He manages our NGO business. Abraham, you're most welcome to the session, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Rita. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the public sector unit of the Commercial Banking Division of Ecobank Ghana, and on behalf of the entire management of the bank, I would want to say a big thank you to every one of you on this call, especially for making time to respond to our invitation to be part of this webinar. I particularly thank the leadership of the SCOs and the NGOs represented here today, with a special thanks to Dr. Eugene Owusu from the Office of the President. Doc, we are grateful. I also thank Mr. George Osei Akoto Bimpe, Country Director of Send Ghana, and Mr. Carl Manland, COO of Ecobank Ghana Foundation, who is part of our own group. Now, as you all agree with me, the organizers could not have had a better theme than the one chosen for the day, and that is leveraging technology to enhance efficiency of NGO business. Now, depending on how you look at it, this theme has meanings for each of us as individuals and also for our various organizations. I believe that my colleagues, Sewa and Gina, have done justice to this during their presentations, making clear the various offerings and the inherent benefits to customers. I also believe that those of us on this call will do our very best to adopt some of these products in order to lessen the burdens associated with the traditional ways of patronizing banking products and services. And judging from the answer that the last question that Sewa answered, I believe that a lot of these digital products have been made available to us, and we will really patronize them so that we can serve better. Our doors as Ecobank are forever opened through our relationship managers, our numerous branches, and even the contact center, which operates 24/7. Now, when Charlotte was speaking in her welcome message, she emphasized the need for operational efficiency by NGOs and CSOs in meeting the aspirations of our people in various capacities. Indeed, Ecobank, as your partner in this developmental agenda, is ever ready to provide the needed support in line with the bank's vision of contributing to the economic development and financial integration of Africa. We do this through the unrelenting pursuit of a well-planned financial inclusion and digitization agenda, which we will use as a strategic platform to empower NGOs and CSOs to efficiently execute your core mandate. Once again, let me take this opportunity to thank you all for your presence. We are grateful to you all, and God richly bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edukwateng. Thank you all for joining us. Today's session, as Mr. Edukwateng has rightly informed all, was on leveraging technology to enhance efficiency of NGO business. And we were very privileged to have with us Dr. Eugene Owusu from the Office of the President, the Special Advisor to the President on SDGs. We had Mr. George Osei Akoto Bimpe, who is the country director for SEND Ghana, and of course, Mr. Carl Malan from the Group Foundation, who have spoken to us and provided us with invaluable insights. We also had internally Madame Sewa Akoto, and of course, Madame Gina Chumesi, who was also on standby for any questions on Forex. We are indeed privileged that you all left your very busy schedules to be with us this morning and to join us for this very important section. As I indicated, we will get back to you on questions that were unanswered, and we will continue to engage you as we all work towards obtaining the very best where this particular segment is concerned. Thank you once again for joining us, and do have a good day and stay safe and enjoy the rest of the day. From Ecobank, a very good morning and a goodbye from Rita Chega, Ecobank. Thank you once again.